Good. So we continue with our computations. Now we have reached a point in period number 2 where we are now setting on how to autofill our formula from period number 2 all the way to period 20, where we are going to effect our first adjustment. And the adjustment you can see in the yellow highlighting in period 20 or month 20, we are going to put into consideration an additional payment of 550,000 to the loan. So at this point in time, that is where we are going to effect that first change. So we are laying the ground, we are laying our formulas and setting them at period 2 so that we are not going to repeat all these steps at each and every month or at each and every period, because that would be a lot of work. You will take a whole day for you to be able to fill all these rows. How many rows are they? From row number 2 all the way to row number 120, you will take a whole day for you to set formulas for each row. So that's why Excel normally brings us this functionality where we can set our formulas. We can lock the cells where possible, the reference cells, in case whatever is in that cell is something we need to maintain moving forward in a chronological order. So in that case, let us set those formulas. And we are starting with this point where we had started computing installment. Now, we know installment is computed using the PMT formula. I had put it in, then referred to the rate. Now, the rate I'm referring to is the rate that aligns with the period number 2 or month number 2. And we are not locking the rate because each and every period has its own rate. In the usual computation of these loan schedules, where we have a constant interest rate, we normally do not bring the interest rate column in this our tabulation. But we brought it in here because our interest rate is going to change at some point. You remember at month 48, as we had read in the additional information number 3, our interest rate is going to change. So that's why we decided to bring it here so that we can see at what point is it changing. And again, in case you will still want to implement any other change in the interest rate, you can do it without interfering with all the other computations. You can just change it at that point and it will take effect. It will cascade down to all the other periods, taking into effect the change that you've just done at that point. So there we go. We picked on that interest rate. Then number of periods, we refer to the initial number of periods. Remember, number of period is the period the loan is taking to be fully repaid back. That has not changed. That is still 120. Unless the examiner tells us that, for now, we do not change it, we keep it constant. And because I'm setting my formulas so that I autofill the rest, I'm going to fully lock that period because for now it is constant. And how do we lock? It is using the F4 key or function F4 key, depending on the layout and the type of computer that you are using. Good. Now, after putting in the number of period, comma, then we come to the present value. What do we mean by present value? Now, present value at that point is the amount of the loan that we are currently servicing. The principal amount of the loan that we are servicing that was given in period 0, which started period 1. So what is the beginning loan balance in period 1? It is 5.7 million. So that is the loan amount that we are servicing. And that loan amount for now, it has not changed. There has not been any lump sum amount put in, and there has not been any additional loan. Additional loans will come in, but not within period 1 and period 20. It will come later. So when we reach there, we're going to effect that adjustment accordingly. So for now, we also go ahead and fix this loan amount. So it is going to remain constant from period 1 to period 20, and we will see at what point it is changes. So you are going to also fully fix that by F4 key or function F4. So you can see after that, I put a comma, present value. So present value, when we come to the present value now, we also see. No, I've already put in the rate is there. Number of period, I referred to the wrong one. Oh, okay, there was supposed to be number of period which I referred to. I think I've just edited it out. I locked it because the period is not changing. Then we came to the present value. Okay, now when we come to these brackets, if you see any functionality within a formula that is brought in brackets, like we've mentioned before, that is not compulsory, not mandatory. You can opt not to fill anything, just remove the comma. Then you don't even have to close the bracket. Excel will close it for you, so long as you've given the entries that you desire. And whatever entries remaining are in brackets, meaning they're not mandatory, you leave it at that and confirm, control enter, like that. you can see I'm getting the installment equivalent to the one we got in period 1 because these other elements have not changed. The loan amount is still the same. Interest rate is still the same. The period of repayment is still the same. So you expect our installment to be the same. Now, interest, I showed you how to use either IPMT to compute the interest, or you take the approach of directly multiplying the interest rate by the beginning loan amount, and we got this. So we are going to use the same. So just pick the interest rate and the beginning loan amount. I believe I had explained, and we all get to understand that we have two approaches, and as a student, choose whichever approach works for you. Principal, I also gave you two approaches where you can use the PPMT functionality in Excel. You'll get the same principal amount as the way, because we know installment has two elements, that is interest and principal. I'm just going ahead and getting the simpler route, going the simpler way of getting the difference between the installment and the interest, because that one is the next element of principal. So I want to remove this formatting of dollars. I want to remove the currency so that we just have plain figures. So I'll go there and do that formatting, and I've removed the currency. Additional amount we still don't have. Then the ending balance of the loan, we had said that you just pick the beginning loan balance, loan amount. Then the only thing you deduct from it is the principal amount repaid. You do not deduct interest. Neither do you choose an installment, because installment has the component of interest. So this is the enemy. Interest is just the cost of borrowing. It is the cost of using other people's finances to run your affairs. So it does not affect your principal amount that you're going to repay. So that's how we are getting the ending balance. After we've set this formula, I'm not going to repeat all that tedious process all along up to period 20. I just highlight it like that. Then I drag, I autofill, and up to what point? I'm reaching month 19 or period 19. I want to stop it at period 19. And at period 19, you can see we have our ending balance of the loan to be 5197,540, like that. 5197,540, like that. Now, I want us to look at something interesting here. Look at the additional payment column. It has picked some figures, of which is wrong. We should not have any figures here. We should have 0 because we don't have any additional payment. So they should all be 0 like that. They should all be 0 like that. Like that. Good. So I think that now is okay. That now is okay. I'm just confirming if everything has taken, if it has picked the formulas the way it should. If it has picked the formulas the way it should. We don't have any additional payments up to that point. Good. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, it has referred to that. I think we are okay up to that point. We are good up to that point. We are good. Great. So let's come to period number 20. Let's come to period number 20. Period number 20. I'm seeing the problem here. I want you to also look at the additional loan column. You see, it has picked, because we started dragging from 0. Excel has gone ahead to bring us the numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, and all that. But we do not have any additional loans from period 1 to period number 19. So all of that we should take it back to 0 like that. Now, when we reach here, now we see the first adjustment that the examiner wants us to do. Where do we get it from? Look at additional information 1. We are told an additional amount of 550,000 is repaid with the 20th installment, and the monthly installments are to be recomputed to fully pay back the loan balance in the initially agreed period. Which is the initial agreed period? It is 120 months, right? Good. So at that point, that's why you see the 550 there. And our formula will still remain the same, like that, up to period 19. But when we come to period 20, I want us to see, how do we bring on board this adjustment? This is how. Now, in period 20, let us look at the timeline of the examiner. Additional amount of 550 is repaid with the 20th installment. And remember, when are we doing the payments? Look at this number 3. The payments are being done monthly in arrears. In arrears means what? We are doing the payments at the end of every month, right? So if we are paying additional 550 with the installment, then that means as we do our installment payment at the end of the month, we are also charging or bringing on board a lump sum of 550,000 to reduce our loan balance. Get that word. To reduce what? Our loan balance. Which loan are we reducing its balance? The loan is 5.7 million. We want to reduce its balance. Now, very fast, let's come here and see what is the balance brought down of the loan in month 20. It will be the carried down or the closing balance in month 19 or period 19, right? So I will put an equal sign, refer to the closing balance in period 19 and bring it as opening balance in period 20, like that. Then, do we have any additional loan in month 20? The answer is no. The answer is no. According to note number 1, the only thing we have that to adjust is the additional lump sum payment together with the installment of 550,000. Yeah, so we come there and put a 0. We don't have any additional loan. Then that the total loan opening balance is the opening balance brought down plus any other additional loan which we do not have. So that gives us that amount of 5197. Then, has our interest rate changed? The answer is no. Our interest rate will change at month 48 according to additional information number 3 which we had read, right? So when we reach there, we will see how it takes effect. For now, our interest rate remains the same. Now, how do we compute the installment? I had mentioned to you that if we look at the PMT functionality, the PMT formula, interest is critical. Change in interest will affect our PMT, our payment, or our installment. Again, the loan amount, the beginning loan amount is also going to affect our installment. Now, let's see if there is any change in our installment. And in this our case, if you look at this our computation very keenly, if you look at our computation keenly, you will realize that our interest rate remains constant, but in period 20, again, our installment, our loan amount has not been affected yet because the lump sum we are paying is at the end when we are doing our remission of the monthly payment. So meaning what? You see this installment which you computed here, I'm just dragging that formula because our installment remains the same. Our installment remains the same. The loan amount is still 5.7 million. So that installment remains the same for period 20 itself. But when we come to principal again, let me just drag the formula. This one is also not affected. It remains the same. The only effect that will come in is coming in at the end of that month. At the end of that month is where we have something which is changing. And what is it that is changing? Whatever is changing is the amount that we repay, and it will affect the closing balance of the loan, right? Now, we have 550. How do we get to compute the ending balance? The ending balance we compute by picking the opening loan balance, right? Then we deduct the principal amount which is being repaid. How much is it? I refer to that cell where we have the principal loan amount, which is now in that case 29,295, like that. Then I also take into effect the additional lump sum amount that we are paying to reduce our loan. Remember, we are emitting our usual installment. At the same time, we are reducing our loan by 550,000. When I do that, I'm getting a closing loan balance of 4.618081.72. I've taken into effect this. Now, you realize that our loan balance has reduced greatly. You see, it was 5,197,000 in the previous period. But because of the effect taken care of by the 550, our loan amount has reduced even further. Now we have a closing balance of 4618 at the end of month 20. Now, how do we proceed to month 21? Put an equal sign to bring the balance brought down, which is the same pattern. We pick the closing balance of the previous period. In this case, period 20, right? Good. So we go there and pick that closing balance, bring it on board like that. Now, before we proceed, I want you to remember, now our loan amount has been affected. Remember, when you are computing our installment, I want to activate my formula so that you see what I want to talk about. You realize that our present value of the loan, you see the present value of the loan, cell H32, our present value of the loan, which was 5.7 million, we have paid some money, some lump sum amount, and it is going to affect that loan balance. The loan we are servicing is now 5.7 million, and we have to take care of the effect of the 550. So how do we compute the installment for that? Let's bring over, there is no additional loan, so that still remains 0. Then the opening balance, we had set the formula and it has picked. It is the brought down plus any additional loan gives us the total opening, right? Interest rate remains the same. Now, the main point I want you to understand is at this point, how do we compute the installment to be repaid at month 21 after the lump sum payment which we did at the end of month 20? Remember, month 20 is not affected by it. The only thing affected in month 20 is the closing balance. but it will now greatly affect our computations starting from month 21. Why am I saying starting from month 21? I want you to look at the examiner, the language. The examiner said after telling us that with the 20th installment and the monthly installment recomputed. The examiner is also very smart to bring us that point. The examiner do not have to tell you that. But in this case, we are lucky the examiner is telling us we have to recompute our monthly installment. Why are we recomputing? Because the examiner also acknowledges the fact that the loan amount has been affected, right? But the repayment period remains the same. I want to look at the last part. To pay the loan balance in the initially agreed period. Which period are we talking about? 120 months. Good. So loan period remains the same. The only thing that has been affected is the loan amount. That's why the examiner is also telling us to recompute the monthly installment. So let us recompute the installment. How do we recompute it? Come there, put an equal sign, and the functionality is the PMT function. I pick it and then pick on the rate. Interest rate has not changed, so it is the same. I just click on that, but I'm not locking it because every period has its own interest rate. Good. So put a comma. Come and pick on the number of period. Number of period we've just read. The examiner telling us the number of period is not affected. So I will still go and refer to 120. And I remember to lock it. I remember to lock it using F4 or function F4 key because it is going to remain constant. The period has not changed. Put a comma. Present value of the loan. Now this is the catch. Present value of the loan is now the catch. The present value of the loan has now changed. Because of the lump sum payment we've done of 550, it affects our loan balance by the same amount. So what we do is, when computing the PMT, we pick the total opening loan balance at period 21, which is what? 4618. And 4618 is coming after taking care of 550 lump sum payment. Note that very well. Now, because of these other functionalities are in bracket, I don't have to fill them in. I leave it there. I confirm, control, enter. I have my figure there of the installment to be repaid like that, right? Good. And I want us to recheck something. As much as the period of repaying the loan has not changed, but there is something we are not supposed to forget, and I'm sure. So I don't know whether someone has seen it. I don't know whether you've seen it. Let me activate the formula of the installment. Now, rate, we've picked on this rate. Number of period, we referred to this 120. But do you think it is right? I don't think it is right because we have already covered 20 months. You see, we are in month 21. So why do we still talk about 120 when already we covered 20? That means we need to use 100, not 120. So another way of making sure that the number remains constant in an Excel function is to type it in. You can type it in a cell, then when you refer to it, you fully lock, or just type in 100. How am I getting 100? It is the total period 120 minus the period we've already covered. We've already covered 20 months. We are in month 21. So I have to take care of whatever period we've covered. So we are remaining with 100 months so that we be able to fully amortize this loan. So I keep it that, and there I'm having my installment. Now, don't worry about the dollar signs. I've told you that is just a formatting and we are going to do that, so that should not worry. Now, when we come to the installment, the interest part, interest formula remains the same, interest rate by the opening loan balance. Then this the principal to be repaid, the formula remains the same. We just get the difference between installment and interest like that. Then there is no additional loan. There is no additional loan in period 21. It was only at the end of period 20. So that means our closing balance remains the opening balance. Then we knock off the principal repaid. You see the loan repaid here is 0. Then we get our closing balance of 45,91,631.62, like that. Good. Now, with that, let's see where else, at what point are we going to have any other change? Let's look at the addition informations. We've tackled addition information 1. Addition information number 2 is the earliest because it is at month 48, right? Where we are being told the rate of interest is adjusted to 13.8% per annum with effect from the end of the 4th year. With effect from the end of the 4th year. So 4 years is month 48. I believe you remember how we computed this. It is 4 years. Each year has 12 months. So 4 by 12, that's how we get 48. So if you look at our tabulation here, at month 48 is where the interest, after the month 48 is where our interest is going to change. So interest remains constant, meaning there is no any other change that is happening between month 21 to month number 48. So let us just autofill our formula. I'll just highlight this computation in month 21, and then I just autofill to month number 48 like that. Like that. Now, everything has remained constant up to month number 48. So I want us to look at that month 48 and see what adjustments are we supposed to bring on board. What adjustments are we supposed to bring on board like that. Now, in this case, I'm just checking if it has picked my correct formulas. This was 74, that. Let me see. No, I think there is a problem. Look at additional loan column. It is still counting the numbers from 1 to that. So we need to make sure there is no any additional loan up to month 48. We've not been told there is. So I want just to reset them like that. Then we also check if there is anything that it has picked which is wrong. Let me just check if we fully locked. Let me see math period 21. How did we compute our installment rate? We don't lock. Number of period, we used 100, which remains constant like that. Then the present value. Did we lock present value? No, we are supposed to lock that loan amount. You see that loan amount we have at that point, because it has affected our principal amount, that one we ought to have locked. So just fully lock it like that. And once you fully lock it like that, then I just want to autofill if there will be any change, and I'm seeing there is a change. Yes, good. So up to that point, we are at month 48. And in month 48, I want us to see what change, what adjustment are we supposed to bring here? What adjustment is the examiner telling us? Look at note number 2. The rate of interest is adjusted to 13.8 per annum with effect from the end of the 4th year. So, is our 4th year or month 48 affected? Is month 48 affected? The answer is no, because this adjustment is taking effect at the end of month 48, meaning we are only going to affect our computations of installment from month 49. Let us look at note 3, which is telling us to recompute. Note 3 is telling us the monthly repayment is recomputed to fully pay the loan balance in 12 months less than the initially agreed period. That is a very catchy word there. 12 months less than the initially agreed what? Initially agreed period. Initially agreed period. Now, that is the catch. That is somewhere I want us to look at very keenly. Now, how do we look at it? Let's come to month 48. So month 48, there is no any effect. Month 49 is affected. So let's bring the opening balance brought down. There is no additional loan. That means our total opening is okay. Then interest rate is what is changing here. Remember, our interest rate was initially 12.5% per annum, and it is now changing to 13.8% per annum. So we have to reflect that change and get the monthly interest rate using 13.8. This 1.04 we use 12.5. But now it is at this point that the rate is changing. So let's come and get the monthly rate from month 49 moving forward. Put an equal sign. 13.8%. Now that is the annual rate of interest after 48 months. Now we divide it by 12. Why do we divide? We are computing the monthly interest rate. And we know a year has 12 months. So that's why we are dividing the annual rate of 13.8 by 12. And we are getting 1.15. This 1.15 now is the interest rate we are going to use from this point moving forward until the interest rate changes, in case we'll get that additional information where the interest rate will change again for the second time. But now we leave it at that. We've changed our interest rate. Now, once we change interest rate, remember, we will have to recompute our installment. You know, the interest rate is a major component making up our installment. Let me activate this. It has auto-filled because our formulas were already set, but we have to check on it. Look at the PMT formula. What is the first element? Rate. What rate? The interest rate. And I'm glad that it has picked the correct interest rate, because we had set the formula and Excel is still continuing with the trend. But we have to make sure we check. Now, I want you to look at specifically the number of period. Now, at what point are we? We have already covered how many months up to this point? 48 months is gone. 48 months is gone, right? Now, if 48 months is gone, I want to look at the number of period. Now, number of period is equal to, remember, the loan amount, the total loan period was 120 months, right? And at this point, we have already covered 48 months, right? But remember, I want us to refer to note number 3 and see what the examiner was bringing on board here. The examiner said the monthly repayment is recomputed to fully pay the loan balance in 12 months less. In 12 months less than the initially agreed period, right? Now, initially agreed period was 120 months. We've already taken 48 months, meaning our initial agreed period is still 120, but it's just that out of the 120, we've already taken 48. But the examiner is going ahead to tell us, let us make sure we pay back the loan in 12 months less. In 12 months less, according to note 3. What language did they say? Pay the loan balance in 12 months less than the initially agreed period. Meaning what? After we've covered our 48, let us again go ahead and deduct 12 because we need to amortize it in 12 months less, like that. So what number of period am I getting there? What period am I getting? If I put 120, then I deduct 48, then I deduct 12. What is the period left? We are left with 60 months. So that period of 60 months is what we are going to use in our PMT formula here, where we put 100 when we had covered the first 20 months. So we come here and say we are only left with 60 months. I hope someone is getting something. Then the present value of the loan, is still remaining constant from the first lump sum payment. You see the loan amount we have at month 21, that amount remains constant, guys. It remains constant. So I just confirm my PMT and see that the installment I'm paying from that point moving forward is 106,976.5. Good. Now, if I look at the interest column, interest, we're just subjecting the amount, the total opening balance, to the interest rate, and the interest rate has changed. So make sure your formula is referring to the correct interest rate. Good. Principal is just the difference between installment and the interest. That is okay. Then the closing loan balance, we just take the opening, we deduct the principal, we deduct also any other additional lump sum payment. Then we get our closing balance. In this case, I'm having a closing balance of 3699,586.75. Good. Now, is there anything that is changing from month 49? Let us see the next nearest adjustment. What